Hello everyone, welcome to the Billy Meier Contact Notes, the audio version that is. I'd like to start off and introduce myself. My name is Randolph Winters. I'll be your narrator throughout this tape set. And before we get started, I'd like to, of course, thank you for purchasing this and your interest in the Billy Meier material. You've just purchased 16 audio tapes and an accompanying book with drawings and descriptions and so forth that help me explain some of the many things I'm going to talk about. But before we get started, let me give you a little idea about who Billy Meier is and why there is this tape set and what you can expect to listen to. To begin with, for those of you that are not entirely familiar with who Billy Meier is, I should explain just a little bit about him and why it's important that you really would like to listen to this. Billy Meier, his real name is Edward Albert Meier. We've all heard many times from people who have claimed to have extraterrestrial contacts over the last few years, and sometimes people say it comes to them in dreams. Sometimes they see things in the sky, and some people have claimed to have gone to Venus, other worlds, had contacts and gone on board ships, any variety of things. Beginning in 1975, a Swiss farmer named Edward Albert Meier claimed to be having contacts with extraterrestrials, human just like us, from his little star cluster known as the Pleiades. What was most unique about these contacts was that he started providing physical evidences much better than anybody had seen before, in the form of pictures, metal samples, biological samples, other witnesses, and these continued on week after week. He started providing hundreds of pictures, and it came to the attention, of course, of UFO investigators all over Europe who flocked to his home to see if this was real, because never before had we seen daytime clear photos like this man was getting, and so, of course, it attracted a lot of attention. Billy's pictures, by the way, his name Billy is a nickname. It comes for his fondness for Old West heroes. He was very fond of Billy the Kid, and that's his nickname, Billy. His real name is Edward Albert Meier. Well, from about 75 to 78, he had a lot of contacts. They were almost weekly. These were physical. He took hundreds of pictures, actually 1,400 pictures in all. He took a series of movie film. And these pictures and movie film and the information about his contacts begin to get out into the public. And it attracted, of course, people from all over the planet, great interest. And UFO experts like Wendell Stevens and Lee and Britt Elders and Tom Welch and Jim Delatosa and other people who were fascinated with the case began to work on the evidence to try to prove its validity. And over the course of years, it was learned that Billy Meier had taken extensive notes from his many conversations with these beings from other worlds and compiled them into what was called the contact notes. Well, unfortunately, these contact notes were only in German. Billy lives in a little place called Schmid-Ruti, Switzerland, about 45 minutes outside of Zurich. And in that area of Switzerland, they speak German. And he, of course, writes in German. He does speak a little English, but, of course, all of his writings are in German. So he wrote down all the information from all of his contacts, which counted to about 135 of them over a 3-year period, where he was allowed to ask questions and receive answers to all sorts of things. So all of this information went into a stack of papers that became called the Semjase reports, or sometimes they're called the contact notes. They comprise about 1,800 pages. Along with that, Billy has also written numerous books on other related subjects from his own knowledge and his own studies from these contacts. So, unfortunately, that information, unless you read German, and even if you do, it's hard to get the books because you can only buy them from Billy. They're not published and they're not out anywhere. It's very difficult to get a hold of that information. This is what led me to want to go over to Switzerland and find out more myself. I became aware of the contacts back in 1979, and I became attracted through the books, the investigative report by Wendell Stevens and the work of Lee and Britt Elders when they put their fine book out. When that came out, I saw the pictures, and something inside of me kind of clicked, and I felt like I just really had to know more about this, and I was very drawn to it. As a matter of fact, you could say I was almost kind of obsessed, I think, for a couple of years. It was on my mind all the time, every day. I was dreaming about it, and I felt so strongly, I was so connected to it that sometimes I thought I was going a little crazy. I thought perhaps I was getting too close to it. I was dreaming at night that I was actually seeing Billy have his contacts, and the whole thing became very vivid and very clear to me. So I started writing, and I tried to find a way to get over and meet Billy and find out more about it. For some reason, I felt kind of compelled to go over there. Well, I finally did, and I wound up staying at Billy's house. He invited me to stay there for a while, and I spent a summer with him here at the home, and he opened up his family, his heart, his books, and his information to me, and I had a wonderful experience of learning all about his contacts and getting all of his books and notes, helping him translate part of it, in an attempt to get this information out. I returned to California where I live, and I spent some time, actually about 3 years, almost on a nightly basis, giving lectures, talks, and classes about all this information. Well, this is how I've come about to make this tape set. Since the information in the books and so forth are all in German and they're not published, obviously many people would like to hear about this information and read it if they could. So what you've purchased is a 16 tape set. There are 16 90-minute tapes here covering the information from his contacts. Now, this is not investigation information. I'm not going to discuss at all any of the investigative work that's been such a fine job done by Wendell Stevens and others. This tape set and the accompanying book concern itself entirely with the information from the contacts, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So, thank you again for your interest in this, and let's get started. As with anything, when you want to start at the beginning, go back to the beginning. For Billy, this actually began in 1937. He was born 11 o'clock in the morning, February 3rd, 1937. We didn't find out till many years later that he was actually one of 4 people that were born at the same time, and their births were caused to be born at that time by these visitors, by the Pleiadians. It wasn't until some years later that Billy actually found out about that, but apparently the Pleiadians had caused Billy to be born. They call it procreation, and they somehow manipulated and procreated, as they call it, his spirit to be born at that specific time. If you're into astrology, you'll look at and find out that that particular time and day is the exact midpoint there when we move into the Aquarian age. The other 3 people that were born at the same time never had physical contacts like Billy did. Billy was chosen at the age of 5, actually, to have the physical contacts and made his decision to go on with it. The other 3 people had telepathic contacts from time to time for the Pleiadians, but were there primarily to back up Billy and to help him. As the years went by, they never revealed themselves, and unfortunately 2 of them died in a car wreck in northern Italy years ago, and there's only 1 left. And to my knowledge, no one really knows who that last person is. I don't know who they are, and Billy hasn't revealed that. But at the age of 5, Billy's contacts actually started. It was on June 2nd, 1942, in Switzerland, in the town he was born in a little place called Bulach, Switzerland, when Billy was with his father actually it was about 9 o'clock in the morning. And they were staring at the sky, and Billy had some odd feeling that he felt kind of compelled to look up in the air and look at the sky for some reason. A few minutes went by, and he started getting a very unusual feeling inside of himself to expect something. He looked up into the east and saw this very large disk. It was about 200 to 300 meters in diameter. This large disk is shot out of the east, and it was very silvery in color, very bright, he remembers, and kind of slowed down over their head. Then just as quickly as it appeared, it shot off to the west just as fast and disappeared. Well, Billy turned to his father for some sort of explanation. His father immediately retorted that he thought it was one of Hitler's new weapons. We were in World War II here, and he thought that was probably something that Hitler had made. Now, he may have just been offering that as some sort of explanation for his child, this 5-year-old kid, without even thinking about it, because what had just gone by them was a large UFO, and obviously was quite different than the airplanes that were being used in World War II. Billy immediately was kind of suspect that it would be Hitler's new secret weapon, because he had spent a lot of time already staring at the sky and watching the airplanes, and he could tell a vast difference. But most importantly, he seemed to have some sort of knowing inside. Something happened when that ship came by, and he somehow felt very familiar and drawn to it. For the next couple of years, right after that, Billy began to watch the sky all the time. He would go out at night and watch, and he'd see little stars that would zigzag around and move in different directions,